Intro music. It's a chilly night. Time to sleep, my brothers. Here is a must-watch bushcraft build before bed. I hope you'll have a sweet dream after watching this. I'm guessing you are lying in bed right now, listening to me spin a yarn. Your phone battery is around 80%, and you're probably in this posture. If I guessed right, let out a squeak. If I'm wrong, just pretend I was right anyway. Without further ado, please rest your left foot on top of your right foot. Now, follow Black Horse as we enter today's bedtime story. The winter sun has lost the harsh sting of summer. It feels warm sprinkled on the body, like being wrapped in a light, thin blanket. In the forest, the trees have shed their leaves. Standing straight and tall, they are a group of silent guards, standing watch over this sea of trees. A thick layer of withered leaves covers the ground, like a fluffy, soft brown velvet carpet. Stepping on it creates a crisp rustling sound, echoing in the woods, shattering the winter silence, step by step. In this episode, Alan will be right here, deep in this quiet and beautiful forest, building an exclusive secret cabin with his bare hands. A place to nestle in during free time, to enjoy some solitude, and immersively embrace the peace and beauty of nature. But the first priority right now is to collect the timber needed for construction. Fortunately, similar fallen trees are everywhere in the forest, and their thickness is just right. They couldn't be better for building a log cabin. However, these logs are often over 20 meters long, which makes them really inconvenient to transport and use. The best method is to trim the ends first, taking the middle section where the thickness is uniform, and sawing it into suitable lengths. Then, one by one, he carries them back to the campsite. The logs cannot be used immediately after being carried back. The branches and bark need to be cleaned off, because tree bark is a natural breeding ground for microbes and eggs. By stripping the bark, the wood dries faster, and it won't easily breed bacteria or bugs, extending the lifespan of the cabin. Also, logs without bark reveal the natural texture of the wood. The color is more uniform, and once built, the cabin will look much cleaner and more beautiful. You see Alan firmly gripping the sharp draw knife. He strips away a large piece of bark. In just a short work session, he has processed several logs. Next, Alan grabs a shovel. With steady force from his foot, the soft, moist soil and gravel are pried up. The crunching sound of the shovel cutting roots echoes in the ears. A neat earthen pit gradually appears. And in just a moment, Alan has dug 4 of these neat pits in total. He then stands for processed logs upright in the pits. He turns to collect small stones from around the campsite. These stones are stuffed into the gaps between the posts and the base, followed by backfilling with soil and compacting it tight. This greatly increases the stability of the posts, laying a solid foundation for the cabin construction to follow. After stabilizing the posts, Alan starts digging trenches along the perimeter of the posts. There is a specific consideration for the depth of these trenches, since the campsite is located on a slope. When Alan digs, he digs deeper on the uphill side and shallower downhill. You can tell this from the uneven piles of soil stacked outside the trenches. After digging the trenches, Alan positions the logs in place beforehand, connecting them head to. Immediately after, at the overlapping points, he uses a saw to cut limit lines and marks them. Then he uses an axe to chip away the excess middle part, forming a notch. To make the mortise and tenon fit more tightly, the burrs in the middle need to be trimmed flat. Once the notches and joints are processed, a simple snap locks the logs firmly together. This connects the 4 posts into a whole unit. At the same time, by adjusting the height of both ends and controlling the amount of backfill soil around the base, he achieves the goal of leveling the foundation. After roughly leveling the base, the loose soil surface is still uneven and bumpy, considering future living comfort. And to make subsequent construction easier, Alan assembles his saw and dashes back into the forest. He finds a thick log, clears the branches from the surface with a few strokes, and then carries the log, stumbling his way back to camp. Using the weight of the log itself, he compacts the loose soil of the base bit by bit. Braving the wind and snow, another session passes. We can see the base has now been processed to be flat and solid. With the foundation work coming to a close, Alan doesn't rest. Carrying his saw, he turns and rushes back into the forest to collect the wood needed for the upcoming roof structure. Same old method. Trim the ends of the logs. Trim away the messy branches on the surface, and cut the straight trunks of uniform thickness into segments. After carrying logs back to camp, he uses the draw knife to clean off the bark. Once enough logs have been collected, Alan places the thicker logs in position. At the overlapping ends, he again processes them into mortise and tenon joints. Then he snaps them together for a tight fit. Next, he takes an auger from his backpack and drills holes right through the overlapping joints. Based on the actual size of the holes, he crafts wooden pegs on site. He then hammers the prepared wooden pegs into the holes, making the connection even more secure. He saws off the excess parts. The remaining 3 connection points are reinforced using the same method. When we see Alan again, the snow in the forest has long since disappeared, and this guy is back in the forest, collecting logs. After carrying logs back to the shelter, he uses a saw to split them down the middle. Then patiently cleans the bark off the surface. After preparing enough wood for the roof, Alan uses logs to elevate the roof ridge beam. Then he uses discarded wire to bind the ridge beam to the posts. Once all 4 corners are securely tied, Alan sits on the ridge frame to test its load-bearing capacity. Confirming it's solid, he continues to the next step. He starts in the center of the shelter, digging a small pit first, then inserts a log into the pit. Using a thinner log, resting on the thick log, he determines the length and position of the roof rafters, and marks it. He then shapes the top end into a cone, and buries it in the newly dug pit, backfilling and compacting the soil. Next, he rests the rafter log on the conical post top. After determining length, he cuts it into a slanted joint. Then he drills a hole through the rafter and the ridge beam, and hammers in a wooden peg to fix it, then fixing the rafter to the central post. Using the same method, drill first, then fix with a peg. Once the first roof rafter is installed, the rest is much simpler. Just follow the same steps and install the remaining rafters. As the last rafter is firmly fixed to the ridge, the general frame of the roof takes shape. Next is the installation of the purlins. Alan takes the split wood planks from earlier and fixes them horizontally across the rafters. Where the ends overlap, he cuts slanted joints, then drills and hammers them tight with pegs. After securing one, he just needs to space them evenly up the rafters to complete the roof framework, creating the conditions for laying tiles later. Once the purlins are installed, he separates the roof cap from the central post. This way, the entire roof can move upwards along the 4 posts, becoming the roof. Before that, there is one important process left. That is laying shingles on the roof. Alan goes back to the forest to collect wood for making shingles. He cuts them to uniform lengths and carries them back to camp, stacking them neatly nearby. Then, using a draw knife and wooden mallet, following the direction of the wood grain, he splits them into even thin sheets. In the blink of an eye, a huge pile of these wooden shingles is produced. But for Alan, who strives for perfection, this isn't enough. The split shingles are carefully trimmed again. After processing all the shingles, Alan sets up a guideline on the eaves to ensure the laid shingles stay perfectly horizontal. And for fixing them, instead of using convenient iron nails, he continues to use wooden pegs. Covering the entire roof requires thousands of shingles. I have to say, this is a very time-consuming project. Once one side of the roof is covered, he marks the excess overhang and saws it all off. The edges are reinforced tight with wooden pegs, as the final shingle is firmly fixed on the roof, and the excess wood at the eaves is trimmed. At this point, the entire roof of the shelter is complete. It was an exhausting job. He lies on the roof to rest for a moment, then immediately starts collecting materials for the upcoming walls. The logs dragged back to camp are set aside for now. He then raises the roof to 2.5 meters. Using the weight of the roof and the friction of the wire, he temporarily fixes the roof to the 4 posts. Then he cuts the freshly collected logs into uniform small segments. He lays them between the posts to form the walls. After building the 2 rear walls, Alan installs 2 diagonal braces at the front with the best view. Then, on the other side, he sets up 2 vertical posts between the beams. The middle part acts as the doorway. The sides are filled with logs for walls. Next, Alan fixes a sheet of clear plastic to the diagonal braces. This way, the shelter has a floor-to-ceiling window with a wide view, great for scenery and providing ample light for the interior. He fills the gaps on the side with logs. Like this. The wall on the door side is sorted out. Turning around, he finishes stacking the final wall. With this, a solid wood shelter is pretty much taking shape. Next up is making the shelter's door. Alan first measures the height of the doorway with a log and marks it. He saws the log according to the marks. Holding the cut log, he outlines the profile on the floor, beam and lintel. Then he drills round holes in the centers of the marks. Turning back, Alan drills holes in both ends of a log. He crafts 2 wooden pegs matching the diameter. 1 peg is hammered into act as the door hinge pivot. The other is inserted into the hole in the door header. Then, he inserts the pivoting door frame into the floor beam and slots the top peg into the frame as well. Just like that, a functional door frame is ready. He fills the frame with wooden planks, secures them with pegs, and saws off the excess. Finally, the finished door is installed in the doorway. And with that, this hand-rubbed, solid wood shelter is fully built. At this moment, light snow begins to fall again. Thick fog instantly shrouds the entire forest. The camera zooms in. The camp is now covered in snow, after sawing off the excess tops of the posts. Alan starts furnishing the cabin. First, using spare logs. He makes a single bed. Then he takes a leftover post from the roof construction, peels it, and uses wooden pegs to fix a processed tabletop to it. A practical table is nicely settled. Then he places the stove in a suitable spot. To route the chimney pipe outside, Alan removes part of the wall. He passes the pipe through and fills the gap with mud to seal it tight. Then he connects the rest of the chimney. Returning inside the shelter, he lights a fire in the stove. Curling white smoke vents outside through the pipe. Drifting into the distance, watching the curling smoke, Alan sighs. A month ago, this was just dead leaves on the ground. In the blink of an eye, a luxury wilderness mansion now stands tall in this forest. To celebrate the completion of the mansion, Alan decides to make a great meal. He takes spices and ingredients from his bag. Quite a lavish spread, indeed. He even has 2 slabs of cured meat. First, cut the fatty pork into small cubes. Then toss them into the pot. Next, cut the cured meat into small pieces too. The fat sizzles in the pot, rendering out a lot of oil in no time. Scoop out the cracklings. Throw in the sliced meat and onions. Stir-fry them a bit to blend the flavors of the meat and onion. Then chop the chicken into large chunks. It's more satisfying to eat that way. Once done, throw it straight into the pot, followed by chopped tomatoes. Stir again and sprinkle in some dried chili strips. Then pour in clear water. In just a short while, the thick soup is bubbling away in the pot. The whole camp is filled with the scent of tomatoes. He adds diced garlic and peppers to the pot. Then some black pepper to enhance flavor and remove gaming, followed by a big spoonful of salt. Adjust the salt once the taste is right. Finally, add the potatoes. Stir a few times and let it stew over the fire. After piddling around for another 10 minutes, the meat in the pot is finally cooked. Before serving, add some cilantro for that unique flavor. Just look at that color. The taste must be incredible. He takes the stew into the shelter. Alan fills a bowl to the brim. Paired with crispy toasted bread, he starts digging in happily. In this cold wilderness, eating such a hot meal warms you from head to toe. Full and satisfied, the sky has turned dark. Alan is alone in the camp. A bit of enjoyment, a bit of loneliness. Staring into the campfire, lost in thought. Instead of tossing and turning late at night, why not watch a stress-relieving cabin build? It's a savior for instance. I guarantee you'll drift into sweet dreams after watching. Without further ado, hurry up and get into your duvet. Find a comfortable position. Start today's story. Tired of the city traffic and his boss's nagging, Kong took his tools and headed into this forest. For him, only by embracing nature can he truly leave the stress of work behind. He found a flat piece of land, planning to build a wooden cabin right here. He takes out the tape measure, puts on his gloves, and begins measuring the specific dimensions. He knows that in this wilderness, precise measurements are key to a smooth construction process. After clearing the withered branches and leaves, he wields the shovel to dig the foundation trench. Great things start from the ground up. You have to dig the pit yourself. There is a lot of rain here in summer, so the soil is quite soft, making the digging relatively easy. Kong plans to dig a trench 30 centimeters deep. The depth must be uniform to ensure the foundation is firmly rooted underground. After half an hour of digging, he finally completed the foundation trench. Next, he pours crushed stones into the trench. These stones are hard and durable, effectively increasing the bearing capacity of the foundation. Looking up, the towering trees become the purest backdrop of this forest. The wind, carrying the scent of pine, rustles through the branches. After a break, Kong starts moving the timber. In no time, he hauled in many logs. He uses an axe to remove excess branches, then proceeds to strip the bark off the logs, revealing their natural color. Just listening to this sound is so Once this step is done, Kong takes out his action camera to record the process. I wonder how you guys deal with your old gadgets. He continues processing the wood, using a chainsaw to cut the logs into various lengths. The sound of the chainsaw echoes through the forest, much more pleasant than the cold typing of keyboards in an office. After the initial processing of the wood, Chong moves the logs one by one to the center of the foundation, arranging them neatly. It's easy to see he's a meticulous person. The camera captures a moose coming to drink water. This not only proves the ecological purity of the site, but also the beauty of nature. And so, Kong begins the construction of the cabin. He places the cut log stumps into the foundation trench. After the first layer of foundation stumps is laid, Tong fetches some fresh spring water from the stream. He brings over cement and a plastic bucket. He tears open the bag, letting the grey cement powder fall into the bucket. The clear spring water pours in with a splash. He uses an electric mixer to blend it into a wild-style concrete mix. He carefully applies it to the top of the first layer of logs, like putting a hard suit of armor on the wood. Applying concrete layer by layer on every single stump. The repetitive motion is monotonous but healing. The scraping sound is exceptionally clear in the forest. When the foundation stumps were partially laid, a light drizzle began to fall. Reluctantly, Tong went home first. When he returned, it was already 2 months later. The forest wind had lost its chill, replaced by the warmth of thriving vegetation. At a glance, he saw that the ground around the foundation had sprouted patches of grass. Fortunately, before leaving last time, he had wrapped the foundation tightly with a waterproof tarp. Tong breathed a sigh of relief. His meticulousness hadn't gone to waste. This saved him a lot of repair work. He rolls up the waterproof tarp and sets it aside to dry. Turning around, he dives back into building. First, he places 2 logs on the foundation, then mounts the purchased square timber on top. He applies a layer of wood wax oil to the timber. The golden oil slowly seeps to the wood grain. The originally dry-looking timber instantly takes on a lustrous glow, faintly emitting a woody fragrance. This layer of wax oil prevents rot and decay, while enhancing the texture of the wood. Chong brushed a layer of oil on all the square timbers. This task took quite a long time. During the process, he spotted a bear coming to scratch its back. Once the wood was dry, Tong didn't rush to start construction. Instead, he moved them one by one and stacked them neatly in the clearing next to the foundation. Only then did he begin building the cabin floor beams. To prevent ground moisture from seeping up, first, place 3 timbers on the ground as the base beams, then arrange the planks neatly in order. Kong secures them with heavy-duty nails. Holding the timber with one hand and swinging the hammer with the other, sound of hammering echoes through the forest. Every strike is solid. The nails penetrate the square timber, firmly driving into the logs beneath, locking the floor joists and beams into a sturdy hole. The sunlight grows brighter, falling on the newly laid base. The wood wax oil shines even more brilliantly in the sun. Kong uses a level to calibrate the base. He wedges wood scraps into the gaps underneath. Then, moving all the materials to the side, he begins stacking the walls upwards. Placing them one by one on the foundation, bending down to carefully calibrate the position of each, ensuring all logs are aligned and leveled. During the process, he leaves space for the entrance door, fixes the door frame in place. A neat door frame stands erect. He continues stacking the walls higher. The repetitive action progresses slowly in the forest. His eyes are fixed only on the wood in his hands, base beneath his feet. Every log is placed with extreme care. This is his little cabin, a sanctuary from the city's noise. No sloppy work is allowed. As time slips away, the cabin walls become clearly defined. A sense of satisfaction slowly fills his heart. For he knows it. The sky begins to darken. He wraps the unfinished walls with waterproof tarps, and weighs them down with a few planks. Once that's done, he packs up his tools, turns around, and walks home. Through the deepening twilight. Early the next morning, bringing the fresh scent of morning dew, Kong returns to the forest with his tools. He first checks if the tarps are intact, then removes the planks on top, and gently rolls up the tarp to dry. Next, he aligns the finished window frame against the wall, takes out a saw, and cuts along the marked lines. Then, following the measured dimensions, he assembles the boards with the window frame. After working for quite a while, 2 identically sized, sturdy windows are finally complete. They fit firmly into the wooden walls, instantly giving the cabin a bit of soul. The rest of the wall construction follows the same pattern. Sunlight shifts slowly through the forest, shining on Qiang's busy figure, and illuminating the rising walls. His movements are skilled and steady, stacking repeatedly, filling gaps without any haste. Only the soft sound of placing wood is heard. As the walls extend upwards, the cabin's outline becomes more complete. Kong watches the cabin take shape day by day. He looks on with great satisfaction, and decides to stop for the day. He places planks in the center, covers it with a waterproof tarp again, weighs the tarp down with logs. After confirming everything is secure, packs his tools to leave temporarily. This episode ends here. See you next time. Instead of tossing and turning at night, why not watch a relaxing snow build video? It's a savior for watching this guarantees you'll drift into sweet dreams. I bet your phone battery is at 63% right now. If I'm right, give me a shout in the comments. If I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. I'll guess again next time. Hurry up and put your left foot behind your neck. Join me for today's relaxation session. In the last episode, only half the walls were done. He wanted to go home to rest and shower, but he couldn't stop thinking about the unfinished work. Today, he got up extra early, determined to finish stacking the remaining walls. Install the necessary facilities. Properly roof this little cabin. Yang's movements are getting more practiced. Following the previous rhythm, he aligns them with the logs below and sets them down firmly. Once a certain height is reached, he cleans up the floor inside the house. Then he lines up the wood planks. On the logs, starts painting. He chooses an orange primer. This color complements the greenery of the forest. It prevents moisture and rot, without disrupting the harmony between the cabin and nature. After painting one side, carefully flips the timber over, ensuring every spot is tightly covered with paint. Completely. Also applies primer to the roof beams. The beams are thicker and more solid, so he ensures the primer covers every corner. After finishing the timber and beams, Tong applies primer to the main door, giving the heavy wooden door an extra layer of warm protection. He moves the dry beams and timber to the roof. To avoid delaying the interior, floor painting later, to prepare for sudden rain. He gets ready to lay the waterproof membrane quickly. Once the floor primer is completely painted, he immediately spreads the waterproof cloth on the roof. Immediately after, he uses cement to fill the tiny gaps in the walls, one by one. When the interior is complete, he removes the protective film laid on the floor. Then, he places a brand new fireplace inside and marks it. There's a small detail that can't be ignored. Since the cabin is made entirely of solid wood, insulation must be installed around the fireplace. Smoke rising slowly from the chimney brings a breath of life to this forest. Next, he installs a simple handle on the wooden door. It's not easy to install within the frame. First, he moves the door frame to the cabin's entrance. After adjusting the position, he takes out a level to ensure it's even. Once confirmed, he firmly fixes the frame to the entrance. Then he secures it with screws, one by one. Opening and closing action is very smooth, with no excessive gaps. He places the cut timber on top of the door frame, keeping it level with the walls, making the connection between the door and walls neat and solid. After completing this step, the roofing process officially begins. He moves the thick beams onto the roof. He secures them with nails, forming a single unit. Then, he fixes the timber rafters onto the roof beams, until the roof is completely covered. Nails penetrate the timber, embedding firmly into the beams, joining the two seamlessly. Following this rhythm, progresses log by log with the roof installation. During the process, he wraps the chimney with fireproof wool to prevent the high heat from burning the surrounding wood. Sunlight shines on his busy figure. The roof's coverage area expands, bit by bit, eventually covering the entire structure. Once the roof frame is built, to enhance the ceiling, he spreads cotton mats along the perimeter, section by section. He uses a nail gun to fix the mats, preventing them from shifting during later work or wind, making the roof's seal more secure. After the ceiling step, Kong immediately starts the roof insulation. He spreads aluminum insulation mats over the roof, ensuring every spot is covered. Subsequently, Tong begins the roof waterproofing reinforcement. He lays waterproof membranes over the insulation mats, unrolling, adjusting, and cutting them section by section. This makes the roof sealed, insulated, and waterproof, better able to withstand wind and rain. Cleaning the cabin. The overall construction is now complete. Next is the interior fitting. He carries a bundle of dry firewood from the side and stacks it neatly in the corner. Then he moves the dried rectangular timber inside, one by one, with preparations ready. Kong first deals with the interior lighting. He screws eye bolts into the roof beams, then fixes the lamp below the eye bolt. He carefully connects the power lines, placing the outdoor power source at the edge of the roof and wall, and patiently organizes the messy wires. With the lighting solved, Kong starts building the bed frame, creating the first practical living area for the cabin. After half a day of work, a sturdy and durable bed is finally finished. After clearing the sawdust from the floor, he uses cotton mats to fill the tiny gaps in the house. Thinking that the temperature in the forest drops at night, he needs enough firewood for heating. The sound of chopping wood echoes in the forest. Before long, enough firewood is chopped. He moves the wood inside, stacks it next to the previous pile. To further improve the ceiling, blocking out the forest wind and moisture, Kong uses foam sealants along the doorframe and the edges of the walls to seal them one by one. Time passes slowly. Night gradually envelops the forest. The ceiling around the main door is completely done. At this moment, treating himself to a handmade hot drink comes the most solemn ritual in this wilderness. He adds clean spring water to the kettle and waits quietly for half an hour. He pours black tea into the boiling water. Tea leaves slowly unfurl in the hot water. Next, he puts a pre-prepared meal into the fireplace to heat up. After doing all this, he finally lifts his teacup. The mellow aroma of black tea instantly dispels the day's fatigue. Food at night always carries an exceptionally tempting aroma. Perhaps because a whole day's labor has exhausted his energy, he slowly savors this late dinner. After enjoying a moment of peace, he takes a flashlight and pushes open the door. A bright beam instantly pierces the night, illuminating the forest ahead. He sweeps the light slowly across the trees to check if the forest is safe at night. Only then does he return inside, take off his shoes, crawl into his sleeping bag, slowly drift into dreamland.